Hi Stampers, it's Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I'm here with another Stamping Made Simple, and today we are working on some Father's Day cards, and I am using a stamp set. We're going to be using Trusty Tools, but I'm not really doing a tool related card. What we're doing is shirts. So you may have seen these before, you may not have. There's a couple different ways that you can do these. So I'm going to show you how I did mine today. Let's get started. So as I said, being a Thursday, this is one of my Stamping Made Simple videos, which means that we're not using any die cutting and they're fairly simple, can be done with minimal supplies and are great for beginner stampers, but hopefully they're fun enough that the rest of you get something out of them as well. So I have 2 cards to make today. I'm going to start with this one, which is, actually I'm flipping the Designer Series paper. So I'm going to make this shirt with the collar out of this Designer Series paper one. And they're both going to be out of the same Designer Series pack. This is the Timeless Plaid. So this came out around Easter. And I really liked the fact that you could do a lot of masculine cards with this. And then it had some fun checks on the back. So it can be used for lots of things. And sometimes some of us are kind of lacking in the masculine card ideas. So I thought this would be fun, especially with Father's Day right around the corner. Now, when I made the pocket card, what I did was I took the square that I'm going to make the pocket and I cut off one side. And then I took this little corner and I held it over here and then cut along the same so that I would have equal corners. And then once I did that, I traced it and made myself a template. Do you ever do that? If there's something that, takes a little bit of extra effort, not that that was extra effort, but something that is an odd shape or something you may want to use again, an angle, whatever, I'll often create templates either out of cardstock or out of window sheet so that I don't have to do those calculations again. To me, it just makes it a little easier because all I got to do is come in and snip and my pocket is all done and ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to start out with a card base, which is in crumb cake. And of course, it's a standard card base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have a standard layer of 4 by 5 1/4 for the Designer Series paper on the outside. And then I have a very vanilla of 4 by 5 1/4 for the inside. I had a little extra strip of the Designer Series paper left over, so I'm going to adhere this to the bottom. This is 3/4 of an inch tall and 4 inches wide, so it's going to fit perfect on there. And then I have this piece that I'm going to use as the collar. Okay, so it's going to just kind of dip down like this, and I'm kind of just estimating, but I'm kind of laying it there, and then I'm matching these 2 corners. And then I'm spinning this one. But I want to make sure that it reaches the end of the card. So I'm going from this corner and then up as high as I can without going over the edge back here. So, I mean, there's no real calculation to it as much as it's just making sure that it touches both sides. Oh, and I should tell you what size this started out as. This piece started out as 2 inch by 4 1/4. So it was just the top half of this. That's all it was. But now I have this for my collar up top, and we saw earlier we cut the pocket. See, not taking much at all. We're like almost together, right? So I'm going to put some adhesive down the edge of this. Just along the top, and I'm not putting it along the bottom. This one I laid flat, but I think I'm going to do something a little different with this one. I'm going to mat that corner, this corner. I've got a little extra to snip off, that's fine. Okay, so I only adhered along the top. I wanted this open so I can stick a button under here, but then I also wanted to lift the collar just to give it a little bit of extra depth like we did with the pocket. So I'm going to bring in a Stampin' Dimensional, and I'm going to place that just under the tip of this. See, so that's just going to give it a little bit of a shadow, make it look like it's a little more realistic. And then I have our pocket here. And I can either choose to line it up exactly with the pattern, or I can shift it over a little so it definitely looks like it's a pocket. It's, you know, something different. But I'm going to also bump that up on dimensionals. Now let's go ahead. Let's put our adhesive on the back of this so we are ready to adhere it to the card. So have you made pocket cards before? Or these shirts? I've done quite a few of them over the years. And have you made your Father's Day cards yet? I know that's like I said, right around the corner. Just shifting it over just a tad. Okay, then I'm going to make buttons to go down the front. And so in order to do the buttons, what I'm going to use is a piece of basic beige, because I thought that'd be a good color to go with it. And I'm going to punch out 5 buttons. And you can choose however many you want to use, but I'm going to go with 5. And then to make them look like buttons, I'm going to come in with my Stampin' Right markers, and I'm going to pick the crumb cake so that I am very similar in color. And I'm just going to make the 4 dots as if they were buttons, right? All buttons have, well, most buttons have 4 dots in the middle. But then they have the cross on them because somebody went through and sewed them on with thread, right? So that's what we're doing here, is just making them look like they've been threaded. And if I don't like the way it looks, like that one's not quite centered, flip it over and do the other side. And I'm going to adhere those using mini glue dots. Did you guys catch the new sale that was announced? Stampin' Up! Is having a kind of BOGO sale with their suites. So it would be any product in a suite. I know when it first came out, a lot of people were saying it was a buy one, get one free of a suite. You would have to buy an entire suite and then you would get the next one half off. But it's actually any product in a suite. So you could get 2 different bundles. You could get 2 different packs of Designer Series paper. You could get a suite and then a bundle at half off. You could get a bundle and then some Designer Series paper at half off. You know, it's a mix and match kind of thing. Whichever one is the less expensive, that's going to be the one that's discounted. But they all are included as long as they are a part of a suite. And you can do that by going to the online store. You can sort by suites. And then nowadays, when you pull up an item like a suite on our online store, it's going to give you a list of all of the pieces that are included in that suite. So that might be the best way to go take a look and see what it is that you want. You can also pop into my newsletter because I'm going to have some lists in there of some of the items that can be used on the sale. So happy June. I'm just adhering this to the bottom, making sure I'm even. Oh, probably should have stamped first because I wanted to put a Happy Father's Day in the middle of this. Normally I will stamp that first, but I got chatty. I do the stamping first so that in case there's a boo-boo, you can flip it over and stamp on the other side. I am lining my stamp up with my grid paper. I've got the words right on a line, and then I'm going to set my block down on a line, you know, here, and that's hopefully going to keep me perfectly straight. And then I can set my cardstock on the grid paper. Keeping that straight. This is going to give us our best chance at having a good impression on our sentiment. There we go. So when inking the stamp, it's just a gentle tap, tap, tap. And then when you apply the stamp, firm up and down pressure, like no rocking. We were taught to do that in grade school, to rock rubber stamps, and actually it doesn't work well when you do that. We want to do straight up and down, even pressure. Also with the photopolymers, I tend to set them down on my desk and then pick them up with the stamp or with the block so that they keep their shape. Sometimes if I was to, you know, pick it up and I'm putting it on the block, there's a chance I'm not going to put it on there straight. So if it's on my desk and it falls to its natural shape, that's how I'm picking it up. So I didn't want this to be a Father's Day card with any tools, but I wanted a little something in the pocket just to make it pop a little bit. So I'm going to make a pencil. And I'm going to do that by stamping the pencil in smoky slate ink. And then I'm going to color it with my Stampin' Blends. You could use Stampin' Blends, you could use your pencils, you could do some watercoloring, you could use the markers, you know, the Stampin' Write markers, whichever it is you feel comfortable with in coloring. They all work. I colored this one. I colored the entire thing, but that's not necessary. I don't need to do the bottom because we're not going to see it. It's inside the pocket. So I really just need to focus on the top up here. And it's kind of okay if I go outside the lines because then I can just, when I fussy cut it, I'll just come a little closer to the edge and make sure I cut off any boo-boos. So that was Daffodil Delight with a little bit of smoky slate. And then I'm going to do Bubble Bath, I think, for my eraser up here. And it doesn't have to be an eraser. It can be, some pencils don't have erasers. But whatever you're comfortable with. Remember, you don't always have to do things exactly the way I do things. That's part of card making, is being creative and being able to adapt and do things the way you like them. As I'm fussy cutting, you'll notice I'm keeping my hand comfortable and my scissors straight, and then I'm turning the cardstock. It's easier for me to maintain control if my hand is comfortable, and then I can just spin the cardstock in my hand so that I get the best cut along the edge. So now that's ready to just set into the pocket. I just want to make sure I'm kind of going around the Stampin' Dimensionals that are in there. And there we go. There is card number 1 for our Father's Day shirt card. What do you think? The collar popped up makes a difference, doesn't it? Just gives it a little extra something. I like it. Okay, so here is card number 2. And it's just a slightly different shirt. And what I'm going to do is, again, start out with a standard card base. This time I'm using Old Olive, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then I have my inside for the vanilla, very vanilla. And this is 4 by 5 1/4. That's going to fit on the inside. I have some scrap of the basic beige for my buttons. And then I have our 6 by 6 piece of Designer Series paper. So I'm going to cut this to 4 by 5 1/4. And so this is how I get the front of my card. And then this is going to be that inside strip along the bottom. That was just my leftover scrap that I didn't know what to do with. So that's going to go in there. But I needed a little bit of this for the pocket and a little bit for the back. And I'll show you what I mean. What I need to do here is I'm going to cut about 1 inch off. Okay, so I'm going to need a piece that is about 1 inch by maybe 1 1/4 for my pocket. But this other 1 inch piece, what I want to do with this is glue it to the top back here. And this is because when I cut my collar, I want it to fold in and show the pattern that is on the front of my shirt, not this check from the back. And how I do that is just by putting a little extra cardstock or a little extra Designer Series paper back here. Okay. So I'm just butting it up to the edges, kind of essentially making it double-sided of the same pattern up here on top. Trim off my excess. Okay, then I'm going to bring this over to my trimmer again, and I'm going to measure over it's dirty. I'm going to measure over 3/4 of an inch after I clean out the track. I love our trimmer, but every once in a while it gets little fuzzies in there, and those little fuzzies will make my trimmer not cut clean. So I clean the track often, and all I did is I folded a piece of scrap in half, and then I just stuck it in there and drug it along the edge. So do that often. You will find you will use a lot less blades. Okay, so now I want to measure in 1 inch. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to line this up on 3/4, and I'm going to come in 1 inch. And I'm following the little line on the side of my blade here, and I'm lining that up with the 3 on the side. So I went from 4 to 3. And it doesn't have to be exact, but that seems to work well. Then I'm going to take, and I'm centering this on my grid paper so that I know kind of roughly where the middle is. So I know roughly the middle is just this side of this light blue lines here. And then I'm going to take my collar and I'm going to turn it in and kind of match it up about with the middle. And I'm going to make the 2 points hit and then push back into the folds up here. Burnish that really well. And then I'm going to take a little mini Stampin' Dimensional, and I'm going to put that under the edge. And I suppose we could have gone full-size dimensional, but just went with minis. I just wanted it to pop up a little, again, giving it that depth and dimension. And as I had said before, with our pocket here, decide which way we want it to go, you know, what side. Think like this way. And then I'm just going to randomly kind of cut across the corner. And then take this corner and lay it there so I am matched up exactly. And I'm going to use that as a guide to cut that one so that hopefully we're nice and even. Looks like I have a little too much of an angle. That's fine. Just trim that off. Okay. Easy peasy. Okay. Let's go ahead and adhere the Designer Series paper to the front of our card. And I'm adhering it as if it's a standard layer. So I'm going to make the 3 edges down here at the bottom, my 2 sides in the bottom the same size, and this will naturally fold up and give me the same size border up here. This is getting in my way. Let's do our inside so that I can get that off my desk. This time I'm going to stamp the Happy Father's Day in Old Olive. Changing colors, I'm going to clean that off. Tap, 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 and then we're going to do straight, even, up and down pressure. And then you also want to hold it just a little bit so that the ink has time to transfer. If you're not getting a full image, that might be something you want to try. You want to hold it down for a while so that the paper can soak up the ink. This out of my way before I do something bad, like stick my finger in it. Here, this one along the bottom seems to fit just about right. If it didn't, if it hangs over, then what I would do is come in here and just trim off from the back side. I always trim from the back because I like the color difference. It makes it easier for me to see where I need to cut. Okay, now we're ready for some more buttons. So I'm going to do those the same way. I'm going to take my 1/2 inch circle punch. Five buttons. I like to do things in odd numbers. So 3 didn't look like enough. So I ended up with 5. And I'm putting the 4 holes in my buttons that would be there before they get adhered to the shirt. And then I'm going to go back and draw lines between them to mimic the thread that would be holding them on. And then I'm going to adhere those with mini glue dots. I keep my mini glue dots on their roll with this piece of leftover ribbon because it allows me to just kind of roll this around and pull it back and expose them. And if I was ever to drop this on the floor, which I do quite often, it won't unravel having that ribbon on there. It just holds it all together, so I'm not chasing an unraveled roll of glue dots across the room. And I take my paper and bring it to the glue dot. Make sure I'm pressed on there pretty good. Then when I peel it off, the glue dot's on the back and it's nice and flat. I've seen a lot of people try to take the glue dot off of here and then bring that to the paper, and it doesn't work so well because it starts to roll. But if I bring my ribbon or my embellishment or my paper to the glue dot, it works better for me. Okay, so I'm going to start with a button up there. And then I'm going to put one at the bottom. And I'm following my plaid, which is a nice, easy way to keep me centered. So I've got top and bottom. Then I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to put one in the middle. This is how I space them evenly, is it's easy for me to find middles, because now I can find the middle between these two and then the middle between these two. And so it helps keep me nice and even, at least as even as I can get here. Then we can put our pocket on. You can decide if you want it on the left or on the right. I think I like it over here because it stands out a little more. And then we're going to put some glue dots or mini dimensionals behind there. Oh, I can use these because these are leftover pieces. Always use all of your dimensionals. These are the edges off of the dimensionals, and they can be used just as well as the hexagons because it's still all dimensional. And actually the edges like this work awesome for shaker cards and holding things in. If you don't have our adhesive strips, those work great. I think the take your pick tool is a must for every craft room. It has so many uses. I use it every time I make a card. And there we go. There is our collared shirt. I guess they're both collared shirts, but this is our full shirt. This is our half a shirt. So which one do you prefer? Are you going to make either one of them? Do you have that designer series paper, or is there something else you're going to make it with? Let me know in the comments. I love to hear what you guys think of my cards and what you're going to be doing with them. It's so fun. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate you being here on a Stamping Made Simple video on our Thursday while I am on vacation. Hopefully I'm in comments over there, but this was all pre-filmed so that I could go visit my daughter in New Mexico and watch my foster granddaughter for a week while she goes out of town. And you don't have to miss out. So there you go. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you on Monday for another awesome fun fold card. Thanks so much. Bye.